Hello everyone, so this video is about instrument racks. There's a diagram in front of me on the screen and it shows 4 chains in an instrument rack with 4 devices on, each followed by an effect device. So each of these devices, analog, collision, operator and electric, is going to take MIDI information and make sound with it, and then we're going to feed that audio signal into effects. So let's go over to have live and have a look. I've got a session here that I've just been working on, which was audio effect racks. So you could go and watch that video if you wanted. Let's have a look at instrument racks this time. So instruments over here on the left, and let's find instrument rack and let's bring in the default. So just like the audio effect rack or a drum rack, if you bring a default version of a rack in, there's nothing in it. You have to put the rack together yourself. You can click this button to view the chain list if you want. And I'm going to start to bring those instruments in now. So let me just go back to the diagram and remind myself of what I was supposed to be doing. So the first device on the first chain is going to be analog. So let's bring analog in. And that's the default version of analog. And I can play that. I'm just playing that with my QWERTY keyboard because this track is record armed. The next one is collision. So let's bring collision in. Okay, I'm going to change the color of this chain. Let's have a look at operator. Change the color of this one as well. No, that green's too close to collision. There we go. And let's go and find electric and bring that in. These are all the default versions of these devices. You could bring in presets if you wanted, of course. All right, so we can solo these chains. We've got analog, collision, operator, and electric. Okay, key thing to realize is that here, this little, tell you what, see if I can zoom in. Should be able to. Yes, there we go. Right, see this little thing here? This is a MIDI signal meter. And watch what happens when I trigger this. Okay, MIDI signal coming into the instrument rack here. MIDI signal going through each chain in parallel. So the MIDI signal comes into the analog chain, triggers the analog device, into the collision chain, triggers collision, into operator and into electric. Okay, and then we've got audio signal meters on the other end of the chain list here. Yeah, so only the electric chain is showing audio passing through at the minute because it's soloed. If we unsolo it, there's audio passing through all of them. Right, okay, so MIDI signal comes into the instrument rack and goes through these chains in parallel. I did talk through the chain list mixer in the audio effect rack video, so you could go back and have a look at that, but very simply, each chain in the chain list has mix controls associated with it: volume, pan, activator, and solo. Okay, so you've got a little mixer environment within the instrument rack itself. Okay, so now I want to add in the effects onto the chains. I'll just go back to the diagram and remind myself of what I was, not my calendar, here. So I was going to put a chorus in after analog, so we'll go back to live. There's various different ways of doing this, but the way I'm going to do it this morning is I'm going to go to effects, I'm going to find the default version of chorus, I'm going to click and drag it down, and I'm just going to drop it straight onto the chain. And look what's happened here. On this chain we've got our analog device, after which we've got a chorus device. Now again, I'm going to zoom in here and just show you something. So can you see this curved edge here? It's very subtle, this. This curved edge represents the end of the instrument rack. Okay, so because the chorus device is to the left of this curved edge, we know that it's inside the instrument rack. I'm going to solo the analog chain and trigger it. Very clear to see that we've got, very clear to hear that we've got some chorus on that. All right, now then, if I turn it off, no chorus on the analog device. If I solo, let's say for example, collision, no chorus on the collision device because, as you can see visually, this chorus device lives on this chain. It lives on this analog chain. and it comes directly after the analog device. So we're only adding chorus to the analog device. If we wanted to add chorus to everything in the instrument rack, one of the ways of doing it would be to move it there. Now let me zoom in again. Remember this curved edge that I talked about? Yeah. So devices have the curved edges in live, unless they're inside an instrument rack, in which case it's that straight edge. So now that we've put the chorus outside of the instrument rack, everything including collision and operator and electric and analog has chorus on it. Okay, but what we want is we want that chorus device to be there directly after the analog device, as it is here in our plan. So it's an auto pan that we're going to put on collision. So auto pan, drop it there. Now if we go to the collision chain, you'll see the auto pan. It's a filter delay that we want on the next chain, which is operator, and there it is. And it's a saturator that we want on the last chain. So let's just drop it there. Did that work? Yes, it did. Right, okay, so we've got our analog chain with an effect, collision chain with an effect, operator chain with an effect, and the electric chain with an effect. So together, they all sound like that. Now, I've just put the default versions of all these devices in. You could work with presets, you could start with presets, and then of course you can change the parameters to change the sound of all of these. But I'm not going to go into the parameters in depth because this video is about instrument racks. And that's it for this video. That's the basics of instrument racks. Remember that the MIDI signal comes in parallel, goes through each chain in parallel, and then you've got mix controls on each chain. After that, whatever you do with the device parameters is completely self-contained within the device. And remember that on each chain, you can have as many devices as you like. So you could start to stack up lots and lots of effects if you wanted after this. You can also, if you want, include MIDI effects. So let's just solo this analog device for now. And why don't we bring in this chord device, and we can drop that right at the start there. So without turning on the chord device, we just have this with one note. It is turned on, sorry, but we haven't actually done anything with it yet. I'm not going to go into the subtleties of the chord device, but there we go, we've got a chord. So you can put MIDI effects in at the start of these chains if you want to, and you can have as many different audio effects after the sound creating devices as you want. Okay, the next video we're going to go into instrument racks in more detail.